Okay, I work here as an exercise physiologist and a nutritionist, so my background is in helping people change their lifestyle. So looking at the areas of people's lives that actually affect their health. So whether that be through exercise or diet or stress management or other areas that people might be struggling with. That's a really good question, because it's what I'm driven to do. It's what I believe in. I believe that that my role is to help people to be self-responsible. I spend a lot of time as a nurse and watching people sit back and expect other people to help them, and my experience over 30 years of working in the industry is that we need to teach people to be self-responsible. They need to be responsible for their activity levels. They need to be responsible for what they put in their mouth. They need to be responsible for the thoughts they have in their heads. And until people start to realise that they are responsible for their health, change doesn't really happen. So I feel that that's my role, is to make them understand that change will happen if they start to be responsible for the choices that they make. It's always been there, and I've always had a passion for helping people. That's why I became a nurse to start off with. But I've always loved movement. I danced as a child. I'm blessed with the joy of movement. So I've always wanted to help people move and love movement and be well. Part of what drives me is that as a child I was very unwell, and I had to learn what was actually causing that unwellness, and the cause was really high levels of stress and not exercising enough and making very poor dietary choices. So from that personal experience, I developed my passion to help other people, and to help them to realise that it is what they put in their mouths, and it is the amount of physical activity they do, and it is the thoughts inside their head that actually create their wellness or create unwellness, depending on which journey they decide to take. Okay, so the question is, how would I help someone to lose weight? Yep. Okay. The first thing I would start with would be, what is their goal, and is their goal realistic? Because if they don't have a goal, if they come to me and they say, look, my doctor's told me to lose weight, if there's no intrinsic desire to do it, then they probably won't do it at all. So trying to find a realistic goal for them to achieve, and for it to be a goal that they connect with. So that's step one. And then, again, making sure that goal is realistic, and then also making sure that they believe they can achieve their goal. Because for many people, they set a goal and they will actually say to me, all right, I really want to achieve this, but then when I ask them, well, how much do you believe that you can actually achieve that goal, they often then come back at me and go, actually, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I can do that. So that's where I come in, to then say to them, all right, well, at the moment you actually want to achieve that goal, but you don't think you can achieve that goal. How do we change that? And that's where there's a lot of conversation going on around, you're here now and you want to be over there. How do you get there? And what are the steps? And helping them break it up into very small, manageable pieces, so that their journey from where they are now to where they want to be is much more achievable. It's sort of put into small chunks so that they can finally get where they want to go. And that's going to vary depending on the person. Every person's going to be different, so I can't do a one plan fits all. But overall, goal setting is the first thing, and making sure that their goal is achievable and making sure they believe that their goal is attainable. Then I'd start breaking it down and looking at what they actually eat and looking at whether their portion sizes are correct, whether they're drinking enough water, whether their diet is balanced. So are they eating enough, of enough protein, carbohydrate and fat, or is that really out of balance? Are they only just living on fruit? And again, everyone is different. So everyone comes with a different story telling me that they do different things from a nutritional perspective. The next thing that I would definitely look at is what are the barriers that they're going to experience as far as trying to achieve their goal. And again, it's going to be very, very different for every person, but in general, many of the barriers are their own behaviours. So the things that they've become really, really attached to, like for some it's sitting down at night eating a block of chocolate because the kids have gone to bed and now they can relax, and that's something that they've done for years and it soothes them. So there are barriers that will always get in the way, and then so trying to get them to identify those barriers and then asking them how to manage those barriers. So for example, the one that I just gave about someone sitting down eating chocolate at night, ask them how they could then change that behaviour so that it's actually going to be more manageable. So, for example, they might suggest that maybe they only do it once a week, or so instead of doing it every night, or maybe, deciding that they will only eat one piece rather than the whole block. So, again, everybody is different. Another area that we would certainly look at is, I think I've mentioned this, portion size. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They dish themselves up a meal that can often be so much more than they really, really need. So bringing it back to something really realistic. And if we were looking at a plate, we could actually give them a very descriptive plate to look at and divide it up so that they can actually see, this is how much protein I should eat, this is how much vegetable I should eat, this is how much maybe pasta or rice or whatever, or potato, and have a very, very visual picture of what they would require. Or another way of looking at it is saying to people at every meal you need to eat a palm-sized piece of meat if you are a meat eater, a couple of handfuls or cupfuls of vegetables, and again, it's going to vary depending on the person. Some of the other areas that are really important to address, and two really important areas that I always look at with people who are trying to lose weight, is sleep and stress. So sleep first. If people aren't sleeping properly, and many of the clients that come and see me, once I they get a little bit of, they start to become more comfortable with talking to me, they start to tell me that they don't sleep very well. And sleep is really, really important for appetite management. So if you're not sleeping well, if you're only sleeping for really short periods of the night, or actually not sleeping at all, that is really going to dramatically affect the hormones of appetite. And there are two main hormones, one is leptin and the other is ghrelin, and those two hormones control our appetite. And if we're not sleeping, then those hormones just do not work properly, and then losing weight is going to be very, very difficult. So getting sleep under control and making sure they're getting enough sleep and they're getting quality sleep, really, really important. And the second thing is stress. If you've got really high levels of chronic stress, the stress hormones that are produced when you are chronically stressed are going to affect your ability to lose weight as well. So we look at the way that people respond to their life, and if their stress bucket is really, really full, maybe we need to have those discussions around managing that. So trying to manage the stress levels so that they can make better food choices, and managing their stress levels so that they can sleep better, managing their stress levels so that they can be able to plan their meals and plan their diet more effectively. So dietary planning is really important, and that's where a lot of people fall down when they're trying to lose weight, is that they decide they're going to go on a diet and they think, right, today I start my diet, and they decide that all they're going to do is probably eat a bit less, and then they go home and they look in their cupboard and the right food choices just aren't there. So my advice to people is to actually sit down and map it out and look at your diet and maybe set out for a 7-day period and know that you've got all the food that you need, for breakfast, lunch and dinner and snacks. So make sure you've got the right food available to you so that you don't get to that point that you're so hungry that you just go and eat anything. So always making sure that you've got the right food available, and always making sure that you do take food with you wherever you go so that you're less likely to be inspired to go off and eat something else. Another area that I would certainly get people to explore is surrounding themselves with people who will support them, and identifying those people who are maybe going to take them on another journey. So getting them to identify people that are going to be of value to them in their journey to lose weight, and not necessarily excluding those people that aren't going to help them, but just identifying those people that may try and discourage them from achieving their goal, and for the time being finding ways around maybe not spending as much time with those people if that's possible, but sometimes it's not. And if it's not, then maybe that discussion needs to be had around how do they manage that? How do they manage working or being around those people that they know are going to sabotage them? The areas that people really fall down in are, one, that their stress seems to be the biggest thing. For many people, the reason that they overeat and the reason that they've probably put on weight in the first place is because they use food to soothe themselves. So when their stress levels really, really rise, the stress management tool that they've learnt to use is to open the fridge or open the cupboard and eat whatever they can find that in the past has always made them feel better in the very, very short term. And then afterwards, that whole cycle of, I shouldn't have eaten that, what was I thinking? And then they start to get that whole, I've blown it now, so why did I even bother? I might as well just eat. I ate 2 biscuits, I might as well eat the whole packet now because I've just blown it. That is often a real barrier to them achieving their goal. So having those discussions right from the start about whether that is a stress management tool that they use, and for many people it is. So helping them to find other stress management tools. So saying to them, look, the next time you find yourself in that situation where your stress levels start to rise, I'd really like you to be able to open up your box of tricks, look inside and go, well, look, there's eating, but I know that's not a really good choice. I'm going to try something else this time. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to drink a glass of water. I'm going to, or at least have my voice in their back of their head saying, well, Karen said eating isn't a really good idea. I'm actually going to do something else. So that is, an area where people often fall down.